How would you feel if you yourself smelled bad all day, not because you forgot deodorant, but because everyone around you did too, and no one noticed? It wasn't a flaw, it was just Tuesday, okay? So, if you're here a lot, you know I ask for likes and subscribes. But seriously, where are you guys? Comment your location and time. Sometimes I see someone from California listening at 3 p.m. and I'm like, are you napping? We're into the journey of medieval Europe. Before we go though, hey, good job today. Really, whatever you pushed through, the noise, the work, the endless to-dos, you made it here. And that's not small. Now, you get to drift somewhere else for a while. You open your eyes to a narrow, crooked street lined with wooden houses that lean toward each other like old friends sharing gossip. The air greets you immediately. Thick, humid, oddly confident in its own personality. It smells like people, horses, wood smoke, and something faintly philosophical. You step around a puddle that might be rain, might be something else. A woman passes with a small pouch of herbs tied around her neck. Lavender, rosemary, a desperate act of rebellion against the air. You give her a nod of understanding. She's basically wearing the 14th century version of a scented candle. A butcher whistles as he hangs fresh cuts outside. Fresh being a generous term. His apron has retired from its original color. Still, he looks proud, like he's performing a service to humanity, which, in a way, he is. You catch yourself thinking, this is what hard work smells like before soap was invented. Somewhere nearby, a bell tolls. The sound floats through the grime, like light through fog, cutting across rooftops and gutters alike. For a brief moment, the city exhales, and you realize this was the smell of civilization in progress. Not perfume, not cleanliness, just life, unfiltered and sincere. You breathe in again, cautiously, and think, well, at least everyone matched. What if your morning routine didn't include toothpaste, shampoo, or even the idea of being clean? And hey, before you wrinkle your nose, pause a second. You've done enough for one day. Seriously, maybe you didn't finish everything, but you showed up. That counts. You're here now, listening. And that's more than most people manage. When the world feels loud, the city around you wakes slowly. You turn a corner, and the smell changes from complicated to actively dangerous. A tanner's workshop sits ahead, thick smoke curling from its chimney. Inside, men stir hides in vats of liquid that used to be urine, real human urine, and they're singing while they do it. You think, optimism is a medieval superpower. You move on before the smell becomes a memory. A few steps later, a bakery window glows with heat and hope. The bread's scent cuts through the grime like sunlight through a crack in a wall. You stop. The air feels warmer here. Not clean, but kind. The baker waves a flour-covered hand at you. His face is shining from effort, not skincare. You smile back, both of you sharing the same quiet truth. Life's better when something's baking. Across the street, a public bathhouse steams gently. A group of people wander in, towels slung over their shoulders, pretending they're about to get cleaner. The water's murky, but no one cares. It's not about purity. It's about pretending for an hour that the world isn't sticky. You walk on, listening to the clatter of wooden wheels and the gossip of pigeons. Somewhere, a church bell rings again. Maybe the same one as before. Its echo settles into the rhythm of the street. You take a deep breath, and it's not good, not even close, but it's real. And that's something, because even in a world without soap, people still found ways to keep going. And tonight, so did you. How do you keep your confidence when everyone around you smells equally suspicious? You'd think people in medieval Europe walked around embarrassed all the time. But no, they didn't even notice. The idea of personal hygiene was about as real as Wi-Fi. They had other things to worry about, like famine, taxes, and not being mistaken for a witch. Before we keep walking, though, pause for a second. You've done something quietly impressive today. You made it here, still breathing, still curious enough to listen to something about medieval body odor. That alone deserves applause, or at least a deep exhale. You wander into a market square where the air is an entire experience. Imagine every smell at once: fish, onions, smoke, wine, people, all layered like a medieval casserole. Vendors shout their prices, children chase chickens, and someone's playing a lute that's only mostly in tune. You pass a stall selling perfumes, or more accurately, liquid denial. They're made from crushed flowers, herbs, and the faint hope that no one will notice you've been wearing the same tunic for 3 months. One bottle claims to make you smell of grace. You're not sure what grace smells like, but you're guessing it's anything but this. A man nearby dips his hat to you. He's polite, cheerful, and smells faintly like old wine and horses. You nod back, because really, what else can you do? Courtesy has to exist, even in a cloud like this. And still, there's something oddly endearing about it all. These people live loud, eat fast, and love big. They sweat, they work, they share air, and somehow, civilization doesn't collapse. You start to think that maybe humans have always been a little gross and a little magnificent at the same time. A soft breeze pushes through the square. It doesn't exactly help, but it tries. You close your eyes and listen. The sound of trade, of life happening, of survival disguised as ordinary routine. It's strangely peaceful. Once you stop judging the air quality, how do you flirt when everyone smells like soup and smoke? You'd think romance would have gone extinct in this era, but apparently it thrived. People still wrote love letters, met at fountains, and exchanged tiny gifts, and somehow no one mentioned the smell. Maybe love really was blind, or at least nose blind. And hey, speaking of surviving impossible circumstances, nice work today. Truly, you've juggled enough. The fact that you're still here, listening, means you've earned some quiet. Let your shoulders drop. You're doing fine. You stroll past a small tavern. The air is thick with ale and laughter. Inside, a crowd gathers around a lute player. His song drifts into the night. Half melody, half mood. People sway, drink, and shout their toasts over the noise. Somewhere between the smoke and spilled beer, joy manages to exist. At a corner table, two lovers sit close. They whisper, their faces lit by candlelight that flickers with every breath. They probably smell like the tavern floor, but they don't care. To them, this is poetry. You almost envy their ability to ignore everything except the moment. Outside, you catch a glimpse of a woman hanging linens. She hums softly, shaking out a sheet that's only questionably clean. For a brief second, it looks beautiful. Fabric catching the wind, like a flag of persistence. You realize that cleanliness, to them, wasn't about soap or scent. It was about dignity. You take another step and glance up. The stars are faint, but they're there. Ancient witnesses to a world that never stopped trying. Maybe that's the real secret. Not staying spotless, but staying human in spite of everything. The air moves again. Less foul now, or maybe you've just adjusted. You smile because somewhere between disgust and wonder, you found a strange kind of peace. And honestly, that's progress. How do you get ready for work when getting ready means brushing off straw and hoping your neighbor's goat doesn't follow you? The medieval morning routine wasn't glamorous. There was no toothpaste, no coffee machine, no playlists to wake you up. Just cold air, aching feet, and maybe, if you were lucky, yesterday's bread. But first, take a second. You did something good today. Even if it didn't feel like it, you got through it. That's something people underestimate. The quiet courage of continuing. So, here's a little piece as your reward. You walk through a courtyard where smoke curls from chimneys and people shuffle sleepily into motion. A blacksmith hammers rhythm into metal. Clang, hiss, clang. A heartbeat for the town. The smell of burning coals mixes with sweat and singed wool, which honestly beats the tanner's workshop by a landslide. A young boy carries buckets of water from the well. He spills half of it, but still looks proud, like he's saving civilization, one drop at a time. A dog follows, tail wagging, delighted just to exist. You smile. Turns out joy is still free, even in the 1300s. You pass a row of laundry lines strung between windows. Clothes flap in the breeze. Gray, patched, cleanish. Soap was expensive, so most people relied on lye, ash, and hope. You can almost hear someone saying, "It's clean enough." And honestly, that might be humanity's motto. A woman dumps a basin of water onto the cobbles. Steam rises, catching the morning light. For a moment, it's beautiful. Like the street itself is exhaling, and in that faint shimmer, you see how people here manage to keep going by finding small pockets of grace in a world that didn't smell great, but still was great in its own gritty way. You breathe in, let it settle, and think, maybe it's not about getting clean. Maybe it's about getting through. What does clean even mean when your water comes from the same river everyone uses as a trash can? It's not a fun question, but it's real. In medieval towns, rivers were lifelines for drinking, washing, and unfortunately, dumping everything no one wanted to deal with. It's a miracle. People didn't just evolve to photosynthesize instead. Also, before we wade into this, give yourself some credit. Seriously, you might not have conquered a medieval plague today, but you handled your own kind of chaos, and now you're here, slowing down. That's survival in its modern form. You follow the sound of water. The river runs just beyond the town wall, carrying secrets and smells alike. Women stand along the bank, beating clothes against rocks, their laughter rising above the current. The water looks brownish, but no one flinches. This is the system. It's worked for generations. Mostly, a fisherman nearby pulls in a net and shakes his head. "Not many today," he mutters. You resist the urge to tell him that maybe the fish know. You watch as a small child drops a wooden toy into the river and chases after it. His mother calls out, exasperated but gentle. The toy drifts away, caught in the same current that carries waste and life together. You think about how messy survival really is. Then and now, A few monks cross the bridge ahead. Their robes ripple in the wind. And for a second, they look almost ethereal, until one coughs loudly, ruining the illusion. You smile. Even holiness smells human here. You lean on the bridge's edge and watch the water swirl. It's not clean, but it's constant. Like time, like breath. Maybe that's enough. The air shifts. Somewhere behind you, a bell rings again. That same low tone threading through the story. Like a pulse, you let it carry you. And as you breathe, not too deeply, this is still the Middle Ages. You think, clean or not, life keeps flowing. How do you stay polite when everyone's breath smells like mead, onions, and mild regret? It's a miracle. Medieval conversations lasted longer than 2 sentences. Toothbrushes weren't a thing yet. At least, not in the sense we know. People chewed on twigs or rubbed their teeth with the wool and salt. Mint existed, but not where you needed it. Before you imagine that too vividly, let's pause. Yes, you did well today. Maybe it didn't all go smoothly. Maybe something fell apart. Or maybe everything held together by pure willpower. Either way, you're still here, breathing, listening, doing the quiet work of resting. That's worth something. You wander into a small tavern near the market. The air is heavy with roasted meat, ale, and stories that have been told one too many times. A bard strums a tune in the corner. Not great, but he means well. You sit by the fire, surrounded by strangers whose laughter smells like barley. 2 men argue nearby, both missing a few teeth, both claiming victory in a dice game that clearly never ended. A woman at the next table offers you something that might be stew. You accept. It's salty, hearty, and vaguely mysterious. A taste somewhere between soup and confession. Everyone's talking, leaning close, sharing air like it's currency. No one cares about halitosis. They care about belonging. You realize that connection has always mattered more than comfort. That maybe the warmth of conversation was enough to overpower the smell of everything else. You sip your drink. It's warm and oddly sour, and glance around. A cat sleeps by the fire. Someone's snoring already. The room hums with simple life, imperfect but whole. You smile faintly. The air may be thick, but the hearts here are light. And maybe, just maybe, that's the secret to surviving an unwashed century. Keep laughing, even if it stinks. How do you survive a summer when no one's invented deodorant or plumbing? The answer, barely, and with a lot of linen. Before we dive into that, though, take a breath. You've made it through another long day. You carried what you needed to, and you showed up here to rest. That's something medieval peasants would envy. A moment of stillness, a voice telling you you're allowed to slow down. The sun hangs heavy over the town now. The smell of sweat thickens, clinging to walls, fabric, and memories. You can almost see the heat shimmer off the rooftops. People fan themselves with whatever's nearby. Bread trays, skirts, the sheer will to survive until nightfall. You pass a group of laborers repairing the street. They shine with effort, their shirts soaked through. One laughs, says something about earning his stink honestly. You like that. It's the kind of pride that makes sense here. A cart of hay rolls by, creaking lazily. The horses look equally exhausted, swatting at flies with practiced indifference. Somewhere, a bell tolls again, marking the hour. Though it's too hot to care which one, you find a shaded corner near a fountain. The water trickles slowly, clear enough to look inviting, but not enough to trust. A few children splash in it anyway, laughing as if hygiene were optional, which, to be fair, it is. You close your eyes and listen to the rhythm of summer. Sandals on stone, voices calling from windows, a baby crying, someone chopping wood in the distance. The city breathes, sweats, and keeps moving. It's strangely beautiful. The way life refuses to stop, even when it probably should. You lean back and think about modern air conditioning, about how lucky you are not to live inside a constant sauna of civilization. But there's also something grounding about this, something raw and human. The air presses against you like a heavy blanket, and for once, you don't resist it. You let it settle, because right now, you're not just smelling history, you're feeling it. How do you convince yourself the smell of burning tallow and damp hay is normal? In medieval towns, normal was a flexible concept. Candles weren't soy or beeswax unless you were rich. They were tallow, made from animal fat, and when they burned, they filled every home with a smell halfway between dinner and despair. But before you wrinkle your nose, take a second. You've handled a lot today. The noise, the pace, the endless small demands of modern life. You did it. You don't need to fix or prove anything right now. You're here. That's enough. You step into a small home near the town's edge. The door creaks, and the first thing that greets you isn't a person. It's warmth. A low fire burns in the hearth. A pot bubbles quietly, and you can't tell if it's stew or laundry. Maybe both. The air smells like smoke, cabbage, and determination. A woman hums softly as she stirs the pot. Children sit on the floor, mending clothes with stubby fingers. Every sound feels familiar, like a heartbeat you didn't know you missed. On the wall, bunches of herbs hang from twine. Rosemary, sage, and a few you can't name. They're not decorations. They're the medieval version of air fresheners. One sprig falls, landing on the table with a tiny rustle. The woman smiles faintly and leaves it there. You glance toward the window. A candle flickers beside it, its flame swaying like it's tired too. The tallow drips down slowly, thick and pale. You imagine the whole world smelling faintly of this, like roasted ghost. And yet, there's comfort here. The flicker of light, the sound of the bubbling pot, the quiet rhythm of survival. The smell may be rough, but it's honest, real. You sit down near the fire, close your eyes, and breathe it in. The life of people who never knew what clean meant, but somehow understood what home did. What would your bedtime routine look like if your mattress was a sack of straw and your pillow smelled faintly like sheep? You'd think no one could sleep through that. But people did. Every night, after long days of labor, noise, and whatever passed for dinner, sleep wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. And somehow, they found it, even without the promise of silence or scented sheets. Before we tuck ourselves into this part of the story, you've done great today. Really, whether you conquered something big or just kept going through the ordinary grind, you made it here. That's all that matters now. You step inside a small wooden room, lit by one trembling candle. A family settles in around you. The father snores almost immediately, the kind of deep, confident sleep only exhaustion allows. The mother adjusts a blanket over the children. If you can call it a blanket, it's more like a suggestion of one. The smell of the day lingers here. Smoke, hay, sweat, faintly sour milk. And yet, it's peaceful. The night hums quietly. A dog barking somewhere far away. the creak of wood adjusting to the cold. The world feels smaller, slower, almost kind. You notice something. No one washes up before bed. There's no basin, no towel, no ritual. The day simply fades into the night. Maybe that's not so different from you. Lying there now, letting go of everything that doesn't need to follow you into sleep. You stretch out on the straw mattress. It pokes and crackles, but after a few minutes, your body stops caring. The warmth seeps in. The candle burns lower, painting soft shadows on the wall. Uneven, human, alive. And as your eyes begin to droop, you realize something strange. Even in a world that smelled like survival, people still dreamed. And maybe that's what keeps them, and you, going. How do you start your day when the first thing you hear is someone dumping a bucket of waste out the window? It's not the most inspiring alarm clock, but that's what mornings were like in most medieval cities. There were no sewers, just gravity and hope. If you were smart, you walked close to the walls and listened for the warning cry, Gardilou, which loosely translates to duck if you value your life. But before we go there, good job today. Truly, you showed up for yourself in a world that doesn't always make that easy. You're allowed to exhale now. This is your quiet time. You step outside into a narrow lane just as the city wakes. The air is cool, but not clean. It carries every scent the night left behind. Horses snort, a baker opens his shutters, someone sneezes with historical accuracy. A young man walks past, carrying a pail, whistling like he's in denial. He tosses the contents into the gutter with practiced grace. You sidestep instinctively. Congratulations. You've just survived the medieval version of rush hour. As you make your way down the street, a cart rolls by, piled high with hay. The driver nods in greeting, his face streaked with soot and cheerfulness. It's hard not to admire how unbothered everyone is. They've accepted that the world smells like what it is. Alive, messy, human. You pause near a small church. Incense drifts from the doorway, curling sweetly through the air. It almost masks the rest. Almost. But for a moment, you breathe in the illusion of holiness. And it's enough. You glance up at the rising sun, glowing faintly through a haze of smoke. The light feels gentle, forgiving, and you realize maybe the secret to medieval happiness wasn't cleanliness or comfort. Maybe it was learning to notice beauty despite everything else. How do you wash your clothes when there's no washing machine, no detergent, and half the town's water smells like soup? You don't, at least not often. Laundry was a full-day event, something between a workout and a social gathering. You'd haul buckets to the river, beat the fabric against rocks, and hope the mud came out faster than it came back in. Before we start scrubbing, though, take a breath. You've earned rest tonight. You did enough. You are enough. There's nothing left to fix. Nowhere you need to be. Just stay here in the quiet. You watch a group of women kneeling by the riverbank, their arms strong and steady. They gossip as they work, voices floating over the water. Bits of laughter break through the rhythm of splashing and ringing. It sounds like friendship, disguised as labor. The river itself is a character, murky, slow, carrying traces of everything the town discards. A fish jumps, possibly out of protest. Still, the water shines in the sunlight, golden at the edges. Even filth has a strange kind of glow here. You notice one woman hang a shirt on a wooden pole, stretching it toward the breeze. The fabric is rough, stiff with lye, but when the wind catches it, it flutters like a flag, fragile and proud. You smile. Humanity has always found ways to make survival look graceful. Nearby, a little girl helps her mother scrub a tunic. She dips it in the water, squeezes it, giggles when bubbles rise. Maybe she thinks she's making magic, and in a way she is. Clean or not, it's still renewal. You sit by the edge, the breeze brushing your face. The smell isn't pleasant, but the scene is. Sunlight, laughter, the steady rhythm of hands at work. You realize it's not about soap, it's about persistence. The world might be dirty, but life keeps finding ways to rinse itself in moments like this. How do you find romance when everyone smells like damp wool and smoked meat? It sounds impossible, but love thrived here. The kind that bloomed in candle-lit taverns, in church courtyards, in markets thick with noise and odor. Somehow, people still found each other beautiful through the fog of tallow and time. Before you drift into their world, pause for a moment. You made it here tonight, through everything that tried to distract you, wear you down, or keep you rushing. That's something to be proud of. You're allowed to slow down now. You find yourself in the market square again, where the evening has softened the light. Lanterns glow like tired stars. A minstrel plays a quiet tune nearby. Something that sounds like longing, wrapped in melody. You notice two people standing close, sharing a laugh that no one else hears. She's carrying herbs. He's holding a loaf of bread. Their hands brush briefly. A medieval love story told in half a second. They talk about nothing important. The price of flour, the weather, maybe the plague. But their eyes hold that warm, universal spark. You realize the smell doesn't matter. Attraction finds its way through everything, even the air quality. A breeze stirs, carrying both the scent of roses and the unmistakable tang of the butcher's stall. Somehow they coexist. Maybe that's the point. Romance isn't about perfection. It's about noticing something gentle in the middle of all the noise. You lean against a post, watching them disappear into the crowd. The music lingers, slow and human. You think of all the small, clumsy, tender ways people have always tried to love each other, despite the smell, despite the odds, despite everything. And for a moment, even centuries away, you feel it too. That quiet, stubborn hope. How do you survive winter when washing means freezing and bathing feels like punishment? The cold doesn't clean anything. It just slows the smell down. But somehow, medieval towns turned the season into a kind of peace. Fires burned longer, streets quieted, and the air, while sharp, was gentler on the nose. Before we walk through it, hey, take this moment. You've weathered your own kind of cold today. Whatever it was, a long day, a heavy thought, the noise of everything. You're still here, breathing softer now. That's enough. Snow crunches under your feet as you wander down the narrow lane. The city looks softer tonight. Roofs, capped with white. Chimneys exhaling smoke like sighs. You can't see much, but you can feel it. A hush that wraps the world in stillness. A man shovels the street, muttering to himself, each breath forming a cloud. Nearby, a woman carries a bundle of firewood, her face red from the cold, but calm. Every motion feels deliberate, earned. You stop beside a tavern window, glowing amber through the frost. Inside, people huddle close to the fire, their laughter muffled by the glass. You watch them for a while, their world so small and bright compared to the endless white outside. Someone opens the door briefly. A rush of warmth spills out, carrying the mixed scent of ale, smoke, and roasted meat. You breathe it in. It's imperfect, but it's comfort. The night settles deeper, bells toll in the distance. Somewhere, a dog barks once, then curls into sleep. You tilt your face toward the stars, faint, flickering, ancient, and realize that in every century, people have survived winter the same way, together, with fire, laughter, and a little stubbornness. You close your eyes, letting the cold sting your cheeks, and think, even the dirtiest centuries had clean moments like this. How do you handle being sick when your doctor thinks bad smells cause disease, and his best cure is leeches? Medicine in medieval Europe was more art than science. And by art, I mean abstract art. Physicians believed in humors, vapors, and the power of good smells to drive away evil. A bad odor wasn't just unpleasant, it was dangerous. Before we enter that world, take a second. You did something brave today. Maybe something as small as getting out of bed when you didn't feel like it, or facing something you'd rather have ignored. Either way, you kept going. That's a kind of quiet courage the world rarely celebrates. You walk through a narrow lane toward a small building marked with a painted red hand, a healer's home. Inside, the air is thick with herbs, smoke, and something vaguely medicinal, like boiled hope. A man in robes, the physician, waves a bundle of sage through the air, muttering about purification. On the table beside him sits a bowl of leeches, a pile of cloth bandages, and a loaf of bread for morale. He looks at you with calm confidence, which is worrying in itself. He explains that illness comes from foul airs, from bad smells that creep into the body. His solution: surround yourself with better ones. You watch as he burns rosemary and throws dried lavender into the smoke. The room fills with haze, and for a moment, it feels less like healing and more like seasoning. Still, people trust him. He's trying. Everyone is. You realize medicine, then and now, begins with the same thing: the desire to make someone feel a little less miserable. You step back into the street, smelling like herbs and mild confusion. The air outside feels no cleaner, but somehow lighter. You breathe in, shake your head, and smile. Maybe the cure worked after all. Laughter can be medicinal too. How do you celebrate when you don't have perfume, but you do have fire and wine? In medieval Europe, celebration was physical, loud, smoky, full of smells that could knock out a modern dinner party. Feasts weren't just for nobles. Even peasants found reasons to gather, toasting the harvest, the seasons, or simply surviving another week without catastrophe. Before you join them, pause a moment. You made it through your own small battles today. The work, the noise, the endless balancing act. That deserves acknowledgement. You did well. You really did. You step into a wide courtyard filled with music. Torches flicker in iron brackets, casting warm light on faces flushed with wine and joy. A pig roasts slowly over the fire, dripping fat into the flames with cheerful defiance. The smell is heavy but comforting, equal parts smoke, sweat, and triumph. People dance barefoot in the dirt. Their laughter rises like sparks. Someone hands you a wooden cup filled with something sweet and dangerously strong. You drink. It burns a little, then settles in your chest like courage. A fiddler plays a tune that doesn't quite stay in key, but no one minds. This isn't about perfection. It's about togetherness. A reminder that life, even when messy, is still worth celebrating. A woman beside you laughs as she tries to fix a flower in her hair. The petals wilt instantly in the heat, and she shrugs. Doesn't matter, she says, smiling. It's the thought that smells nice. You grin, and for a while, you forget the filth, the noise, the centuries between you. There's just rhythm, warmth, and humanity. People refusing to let hardship steal their joy. The night deepens, and so does the laughter. The fire crackles, the air glows, and the world, for a fleeting moment, smells like something worth remembering. How do you keep your faith when every church smells like smoke, sweat, and melting candle wax? It's easy to imagine medieval cathedrals as pure and holy, but the truth is, they smelled very human. Frankincense floated through the air, but so did damp wool, old wood, and the faint scent of livestock from the courtyard. It was holiness, seasoned with reality. Before we step through those heavy doors, take a breath. You've earned this pause. You showed up today, through distractions, through the noise in your head, through the weight of everything you can't quite name. That's something worth being proud of. You push open the door to a stone church. The air inside is cooler, quieter. Sunlight slants through stained glass, coloring the dust in floating shades of blue and gold. A few candles flicker near the altar, their tallow scent soft but persistent, the smell of centuries of prayer. A monk kneels near the front, whispering words you don't understand. His robes are patched, his head bowed. He doesn't look divine. He looks tired, but peaceful in that fatigue. You can feel the sincerity, the stillness that fills even the unwashed corners. You sit for a moment on a wooden pew, its surface smooth from countless hands and knees. The scent of incense drifts your way, warm and sweet, almost enough to drown out the tallow. Almost. You close your eyes, and it feels timeless. Like everyone who's ever sat here is still whispering in the air. Faith, it seems, was never about being clean. It was about hope, strong enough to stand the smell. When you leave, the sunlight feels brighter, the street louder. You carry with you a faint trace of incense, maybe a blessing, maybe just smoke, but either way, it lingers. How do you stay sane when your town smells like everything that's ever happened there, all at once? In the Middle Ages, cities didn't have seasons of cleanliness. They had moods. Summer smelled like sweat and fish. Winter smelled like smoke and cabbage. Spring smelled like mud and regret. And yet somehow, people didn't just live in it. They thrived. Before we wander deeper, take a second for yourself. You've managed another day in your own noisy world. And unlike them, you had plumbing. That's progress. Still, it's okay to slow down. You've earned the quiet. You walk through the heart of the city, where everything mixes together. The market, the tannery, the stable, the kitchen smoke. It's overwhelming, but weirdly alive. It feels like the scent of persistence. A man passes you, carrying a basket of onions. Another drags a crate of fish. Someone nearby is selling candles, while a woman hawks flowers that smell briefly, gloriously, like escape. You pause beside a fountain where a group of children play, their laughter cutting through the chaos. A dog barks, chasing them, slipping on the wet stones. You can't help but smile. Even the animals seem unbothered by the smell of civilization. A breeze sweeps through, momentarily lifting the staleness. It's not clean, but it's movement, and movement feels like mercy. You take a slow breath, the kind you can only manage when you stop fighting the air. A man calls to his friend, his voice rough from shouting over centuries. Somewhere, a church bell rings again, steady, ancient, indifferent. And as you walk on, you realize that history never really stank. It just lived, messy, loud, imperfect, and alive. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the noise and the smells blend into one warm blur. There's peace here, hidden under everything unpolished. And you think, maybe that's the scent of being human. How do you keep your home from smelling worse than the street when the street already smells like despair? You don't. Not really. You just fight back with herbs, smoke, and denial. Medieval homes weren't designed for ventilation. They were boxes of effort, held together by good intentions and bad airflow. But before you step inside, pause. You've made it through the day, whatever it looked like. Chaos, quiet, or something in between. You carried yourself here. That's not nothing. You've earned a breath. Before the next chapter, you duck into a small wooden cottage, the kind that looks like it's been exhaling for centuries. The air inside is dense with life. Stew simmering, damp clothes drying, a faint sweetness from herbs hanging above the door. A woman is sweeping near the hearth, her broom made of twigs. She moves with the kind of rhythm that comes from years of repetition. Every stroke lifts dust. Every breath sends it floating through the golden light. She hums softly, unbothered. In the corner, a man repairs a boot. He taps the sole with a wooden mallet, slow and steady. The sound feels comforting, like a heartbeat that forgot to rush. You glance around. On the walls hang dried lavender, sage, maybe mint. The medieval air freshener trio. It doesn't remove the smell of smoke or sweat, but it softens it, adds warmth, like cinnamon on burnt toast. The fire crackles, and someone stirs the pot on the hearth. The smell is earthy. Lentils, maybe cabbage. You can't tell if it's dinner or air pollution, but it's oddly inviting. You realize this house isn't fighting the smell of life. It's embracing it. Every scent here tells a story of work, of care, of endurance. And that, you think, is what home has always meant. How do you get a good night's sleep when your neighbors, your animals, and your bedbugs all share the same room? You don't complain. You adapt. You learn to sleep through the chaos, to dream through the noise, and to accept that comfort isn't the same as silence. Before you lie down in that straw-filled universe, take a deep breath. You've earned rest tonight, the kind of rest that doesn't ask for perfection. You've done enough, and the world can spin without you for a while. The cottage settles into darkness. The fire glows low, painting the walls in flickers of red and gold. The air is thick, with warmth, with life, with the faint sound of snoring goats. You lie down on your straw mattress. It creaks and rustles, but soon even that sound becomes part of the rhythm of rest. Someone coughs, a child sighs, a chicken shuffles nearby, dreaming whatever chickens dream. Outside, the wind hums against the shutters. The scent of smoke lingers, mixed with hay and faintly sweet sleep breath. It's imperfect, but real. You feel yourself softening into it, like butter left too long near the fire. You realize something. Even surrounded by noise and smell, peace finds its way in. It seeps through the cracks, rides on the warmth of the fire, curls up beside you quietly. A dog whimpers in its sleep. Someone murmurs a prayer. The world is still turning, even here, even now. You close your eyes. The sounds fade into a single, steady heartbeat. Yours, theirs, histories. And you think, if they could sleep through this. Maybe you can too. How do you stay clean when water is freezing, soap is rare, and privacy doesn't exist? You don't bathe often, and when you do, it's a community event. Public bathhouses were as common as gossip, and about as hygienic. You'd sit in a wooden tub beside strangers, steam rising, everyone pretending not to notice how awkward it was. Before you step into that foggy world, take a breath. You've done enough today. You faced things no one saw, carried quiet weights no one thanked you for. You're here now, safe, still, and allowed to rest. You step through a doorway into a warm, dimly lit room. The air is thick with steam and the sharp scent of herbs. People murmur quietly, voices echoing against the stone walls. The sound of water fills the space, splashing, pouring, sighing. You lower yourself into a wooden tub. The water is warm, slightly cloudy, but blissful compared to the chill outside. Someone nearby is humming a tune that wanders but never quite finds its way. You watch a man pour lavender oil into the bath, not because it helps, but because it smells less like humanity and more like hope. A boy giggles as he splashes water at his father, who pretends to scold him but smiles anyway. Around you, candles flicker through the haze, their flames small and forgiving. The whole room feels like a shared exhale, everyone just letting go for a little while. You sink lower, close your eyes, and let the warmth erase time. The water carries centuries of stories, and right now, yours joins them quietly. How do you smell better when your best perfume ingredient is whale vomit? Yes, really, ambergris, a waxy substance formed in the guts of sperm whales, was prized for its sweet, earthy scent. The logic was simple. If the ocean coughed it up, it must be divine. Before we dive into that aromatic oddity, pause for a moment. You made it here tonight. Through the chaos, through the noise, through everything modern life throws your way. That strength, even if it doesn't feel like it. You find yourself in the small workshop of a medieval perfumer. The room is crowded with jars, rose petals, musk, cinnamon, crushed herbs, and something uncomfortably mysterious. The air smells like a strange marriage between heaven and barnyard. The perfumer, an older woman with steady hands, grinds a mix of oils with quiet devotion. She works slowly, her expression calm, as if every scent is a prayer. You watch her dab a bit of ambergris onto a cloth, then blend it with rose water. The transformation is alchemy. The fowl becomes fragrant. She offers you a small vial. You take it, sniff cautiously, and, surprisingly, it's lovely, soft, warm, like sunlight trapped in silk. You laugh under your breath. Who knew whale contributions could smell this poetic? The perfumer smiles. Beauty, she says, is patience that learned to hide its source. You nod, pocketing the vial, feeling oddly wiser and grateful for your deodorant back home. As you step outside, the air feels lighter, almost pleasant. You smell faintly of roses, whales, and irony. And somehow, that's perfect. How do you deal with body odor when your best option for deodorant is a pouch of herbs tied under your armpit? That's not a joke. People actually did that. Little bags of dried lavender, mint, and cloves, tucked discreetly beneath the clothes, as if fragrance could win a war against biology. Before we slip into that part of life, take a breath. You've survived your own kind of battle today, the kind with schedules, screens, and small chaos. You did it. Now, you get to do the rare thing. Nothing at all. You walk through a crowded market again, watching the blend of humanity swirl around you. The air hums with life, sound, and 1,000 scents, trying to outdo each other. A woman selling herbs holds up a pouch the size of your palm. Keeps you fresh, she promises, waving it with confidence. You raise an eyebrow, and she grins. At least fresher than him. She nods toward a man hauling fish. He pretends not to notice. You buy one, more out of curiosity than hope, and tie it under your cloak. The smell is bright, sharp mint and something floral. It doesn't fix much, but it adds a layer of dignity. As you walk on, you notice others doing the same. Little linen bags sewn into sleeves, tucked at waists, or hidden near collars. It's not just about smell. It's about trying, about pretending the world could be gentle, even when it wasn't. A breeze passes through, stirring the mingled scents of herbs and people. It's chaos, but beautiful in its effort. You smile softly. Sometimes all you can do is add one good smell to a world full of bad ones, and call that hope. How do you clean your clothes when soap costs more than bread and half the town washes in the same stream? You compromise. You scrub when you can, hang things to dry, and pray for wind. Laundry day in medieval Europe was an act of courage, part necessity, part performance art. Before we wade into that river of effort, pause. You did enough today. You've carried your share of heaviness, and now you're allowed to set it down. You're not behind. You're just human. You follow a group of women to the riverbank. The sun hangs low, and the air hums with their laughter. Wooden paddles slap against wet fabric in a rhythm older than history. The sound is hypnotic, like rain that learned to sing. One woman wrings out a tunic, her hands strong and raw. Another uses ash mixed with lye, the closest thing to detergent. The smell is sharp, but clean in its own strange way. Smoke and water and work. You sit nearby, watching steam rise from the soaked cloth in the chill air. It's beautiful, in a way you didn't expect. These people making order out of chaos, scrubbing away yesterday's stains with nothing but persistence and patience. A child drops a sock, or whatever passed for one, into the current and laughs as it drifts downstream. The women laugh too. It's not loss, it's just life moving forward. You breathe in the moment. The river, the voices, the faint scent of soap and skin and survival, and for a fleeting second, the world feels perfectly ordinary, which, in its own quiet way, is magic. How do you handle the smell of your own home when the floor is made of dirt and the ceiling leaks smoke? You don't complain. You adapt. You sweep the dirt as if it's marble. You burn herbs to mask the smoke, and you pretend the warmth of the fire is worth the sting in your eyes. And somehow, it is. Before you step inside, take a slow breath. You made it here, through your own version of smoke and dust. Maybe your day didn't sparkle. Maybe it just existed. But you're still here, and that's enough. You push open a creaking wooden door. The air inside feels thick, part heat, part history. The hearth burns low, its smoke curling lazily toward the rafters. It doesn't escape. It just lingers, painting everything in a faint gray hue. A woman kneels near the fire, stirring a pot. The smell is hearty and smoky, like survival disguised as soup. She glances up, nods, and gestures for you to sit. The stool creaks under you, but it holds. Much like everything else in this world, the walls are lined with woven mats to keep the wind out. They smell faintly of damp straw and effort. A cat sleeps in the corner, unbothered by the haze. Every surface bears the mark of living. Soot, smudge, the fingerprints of time. You take a breath. It's not clean air, but it's honest. The scent tells you what this place has endured. Meals, laughter, winters, the quiet resilience of ordinary people. You sit there a while, listening to the slow rhythm of the fire. It's not comfort in the modern sense, but it's warmth all the same. And warmth, you realize, has always been the most human luxury. How do you handle your job when it smells worse than your boss? Some medieval trades were a test of courage and nose strength. Tanners, butchers, and fullers worked knee-deep in filth, making the materials of civilization one stench at a time. Before you wade into that world, take a moment. You worked hard today too. Maybe not in a tannery, but you still dealt with the weight of routine. You did what needed doing. That's its own kind of endurance. You walk through the industrial edge of town, where the air changes texture. It's thicker here, full of hides, smoke, and effort. Men stand ankle-deep in murky vats, stirring animal skins with long poles. The smell is sharp, sour, and oddly proud. A tanner waves at you, smiling through the stink. It's not perfume, he jokes, but it pays. You laugh, though breathing feels like a risk. Nearby, a fuller beats wool in a tub of lye and urine, the medieval secret to soft fabric. You watch him work, calm and unbothered, humming a tune that probably predates hygiene. It's hard not to admire him. He knows this job keeps the town clothed, the same way someone now keeps the lights on. You glance toward the river. Wastewater trickles away, dark and stubborn. Above it, the sky glows faintly orange. Sunset over survival. And in that strange beauty, you realize something. People have always worked in places that smell worse than they deserve, but they keep showing up, laughing, sweating, singing through it. You take one last look around and nod to the workers. Their world is rough, but their pride is clean, and you can feel it. That same quiet strength somewhere in you, too. How do you eat dinner when your kitchen smells like smoke, sweat, and everything you've ever cooked this month? You don't mind. You sit down, say your prayers, and let the steam from the pot erase the details. Hunger forgives a lot of things, even the smell of cabbage that's been working overtime. Before you sit, though, take a deep breath. You've earned this moment. You did the impossible again today. You made it through. You got yourself here, to this quiet part of the evening where you can finally rest. You sit at a rough wooden table. The surface is scarred from years of knives and elbows and small conversations that never made history. A candle burns low, its flame bending in the draft. The stew on your plate is simple. Vegetables, maybe a piece of meat if fortune's kind. It smells like salt and smoke, like something ancient but comforting. You eat slowly, the warmth spreading through your hands and chest. Around you, the family talks softly. Laughter comes and goes like wind in a field. You notice how people lean closer when they speak. Because they have to, yes, but also because it's the only way to be heard. Connection smells like stew, apparently. The dog under the table sighs. Someone refills your bowl without asking. For a moment, you're not a visitor here. You're part of the room, part of the rhythm. You look around, and it hits you. Every dinner, every shared breath, every story told over smoke and soup. It all mattered, not because it was glamorous, but because it was life, and they lived it fully. How do you make peace with a world that never smelled clean, but always smelled alive? Maybe you stop chasing perfection. Maybe you start finding beauty in the ordinary, in the smoke, in the earth, in the way life insists on happening anyway. Before we keep going, pause. You've come so far, through work, through noise, through centuries of storytelling tonight. You did your part. The world can wait. You deserve stillness now. You walk out of town and into the fields beyond the walls. The air changes here. Softer, fresher, though not perfect. You can smell damp grass, wet soil, and a faint sweetness from wildflowers fighting their way through the mud. You look back at the city, smoke rising, bells echoing, tiny lights flickering like stars caught on earth. It's messy, noisy, but alive in every sense. A shepherd passes you, humming a tune as his sheep shuffle by, smelling faintly of rain and wool. He nods a greeting, and for a moment, you feel like you've stepped out of time. You keep walking until the sounds of the city fade into a kind of memory. The wind brushes your face, cool and forgiving. You take a slow, deep breath, the kind that fills more than lungs. You realize the smell of life, good or bad, has always been the proof that we were here, that we cooked, loved, worked, laughed, endured, that we were human in all our fragrant imperfection. And you smile, because somehow that feels perfect. How do you fall asleep, knowing tomorrow will smell exactly the same as today? You don't resist it, you accept it. In a world without progress, bars or scented candles, comfort came from routine. The same bread, the same fire, the same slow rhythm of living. It wasn't monotony, it was melody. Before we close our eyes here, pause for a moment. You've carried the noise of your day, the weight of everything unfinished. You made it through all of it. You deserve to rest now, to drift, to breathe, to soften. The night wraps the town in quiet. You walk slowly through narrow lanes, your footsteps soft against the worn stones. The moon rests low, pale and kind. A single candle flickers in a window, and the air smells of cooling bread and ash. You hear murmurs, laughter, good nights, a door closing somewhere down the road. It's all so ordinary, and somehow that's what makes it beautiful. You reach the small house again. The door creaks, the fire sighs, and the warmth greets you like an old friend. Someone's already half asleep. The world outside fades to a hum. You lie down on your straw mattress. The smell of smoke, wool, and faint sweetness drifts around you. It's not perfume. It's presence. The scent of people who lived their days fully, even when they didn't have much to call their own. You close your eyes. The city exhales with you, and in the stillness, you understand something simple. Life has always been imperfect, and perfectly enough. You breathe slowly now. The sounds of the medieval world, footsteps, laughter, bells, fade into a soft, distant hum, like the memory of rain. The air feels heavy, warm, familiar. You're still there, lying beside the last embers of the fire, watching the shadows dance their slow, thoughtful shapes on the wall. Every scent lingers in quiet layers. Wood smoke, wool, bread, Earth, the story of a world that never stopped moving, even when it didn't smell its best. You smile faintly. There's something honest about it, something human. Outside, the wind drifts through the shutters, carrying the faint smell of night, cool and clean enough to make you forget everything that came before. The stars hover above the thatched roofs, patient and eternal. Somewhere far off, a church bell chimes once, then lets silence have the rest of the hour. Your breathing slows with the rhythm of the room. The straw beneath you rustles softly, each sound quieter than the one before. The fire cracks, sighs, and settles. Everything settles. You think about how far you've come, through centuries, through lives, through stories that smelled of work and warmth and persistence. You realize every scent, every detail, every breath tonight was part of a larger truth. That existence, no matter how messy, is still something worth resting in. You let your eyes grow heavier. The light from the fire fades to amber, then to nothing. The air is still. The world holds its breath with you, and as you drift gently toward sleep, you understand the final, quiet secret of the Middle Ages. It wasn't really about how everyone smelled. It was about how, even through all of it, they kept living, and so do you.